recording. Third episode of Outside the Squared Circle. I'm Mason Lott, of course, and I'm sitting here today with the hardest working man in professional wrestling, the Space Cowboy, Jason Jones.
What's up, Mason? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for coming on. I mean, third episode, trying to get this podcast up and running and getting it going full speed ahead. First of all, again, just want to say thank you for coming on with me, taking some time out of your night to sit and talk some professional wrestling.
Not a problem at all, man. I enjoy it.
All right. So the biggest question I want to ask is, what made you want to get into professional wrestling?
When I was a kid, my father was not a real big football fan or baseball fan or anything like that. And he owned his own business, so he worked all the time. He worked 6 and 7 days a week. But the only time that really you could depend on him being at the house was Saturday night at 5:05 when WTBS NWA Saturday Night came on. And I remember just being a kid, and all I wanted to do is I hadn't seen my dad all week. All I wanted to do as soon as he got there was go outside and play or ride the three-wheeler or whatever, this or that. But during 5 to 7 o'clock, that was his window of his entertainment that he sat and watched wrestling. So my mom would be like, hey, just go in there and watch it with him and, jump up in there and jump on his lap and watch it. And I was like, I used to hate wrestling because it took up so much of his time. I thought it took up so much of his time, but no, he just actually enjoyed watching it, and it was probably the best product on. So I started kind of watching with my dad and bonding with my dad over that. So a lot of kids bond with their dads by watching football or baseball or this or that. He was not a big sports guy, but he did like NWA wrestling at Saturday night at 5:05. So we started watching it, and then before too long, he realized I was interested in it. So we would go to a couple of matches. We went and watched World Class back in the day and some early NWA stuff and WWF anytime they came close. I think my first WWF show he took me to, I was in the first grade. I was in the second grade. He took me to Kansas City to see, it was pre-WrestleMania 3. So we got to see Hogan, Steamboat, Macho Man, and then we had been to a few NWA shows. So I got a chance to see Flair and the Road Warriors and the height and the swing of everything in 1986. So, but ever since then, that was kind of our way of doing stuff. And then as I got older, even 5th, 6th grade or whatever, wrestling would come to Little Rock or Memphis or Kansas City. He would check me out of school and we would go watch wrestling. So
Awesome.
Got to spend time with my dad. So that's my backstory of how I got into wrestling. He really got into watching the crowd. He was entertained by the crowd and the way they react to certain things that happen. And I enjoy it too. Just still to this day, that's one of the things that watching it in the arenas, you would notice how certain people would say things and you would get a certain reaction out of the crowd. And that's what I really gathered from it. I was like, oh my God, when this guy does this because he's a quote unquote asshole, pardon my language, I don't know if you can cuss on here.
You're fine.
But, oh my God, that little old lady just picked up her cane and shook it at him and threw it at him in the ring and stuff. So we would literally get tickled of watching the fans interact with the wrestlers. So I used to get a kick out of watching him watch the fans, watch the crowd. So that's one thing that stuck with me. And then as I get older and I'm in this business, I get to the crowd and I try to see those families coming out there and I try to give them something memorable that they'll remember, whether it be they're booing this guy or they're cheering this guy. It just takes me back to a simpler time and something I always wanted to do when I was little.
That's awesome. Yeah, you'd think that's what I watch whenever I'm sitting and watching Raw or something. With everything going on right now, it's so much different because you don't hear the crowd, you don't hear the reaction.
Sure.
And
it's weird. Yeah, it's really weird. I've tried to watch a couple of them, and of course, I have a buddy that comes over. He's watched pay-per-views ever since we've been in high school, just like the big ones. We'll get Royal Rumble every year and WrestleMania, but we watched WrestleMania this year, and it was so weird to see. But being a professional, people can't understand. You go play a baseball game, there's people cheering and all that stuff, but you can still play a baseball game.
Oh, for sure.
However, being a professional wrestler, you feed off that crowd, whether you're a babyface or whether you're a heel. So it really And there's times when you amp your game up if you're not doing your job properly. You know, if I'm a heel and they're just not buying what I'm putting out there, I step it up a notch. That's where I'm going to cheat a little bit more, this or that, and try to get a reaction. And there's no reaction to get out of that crowd. So
Right.
it's really weird and it's really awkward. It's painful to watch. The part that I find that's painful is they're still doing their entrances as if, you know, there's a crowd there. They're still going, hitting. Like I watched Austin when he came back and he still went to all four corners and did the, you know, the each ring post. And I'm like, that's a little weird, even if it's in your contract that way. I mean, it's kind of weird to see all that play out.
Right.
And them doing promos like, and with no crowd interaction, it's so awkward, and it's just like the cheesiest soap opera in the world that you could watch. And I'm not a fan, but I understand they got a TV show to film, and
Right.
Best of luck to them.
Oh, for sure. WrestleMania was very, very different. However, they did do a pretty good job with it too. I mean, the 2-night thing I'm here and there about. There's good things about it and there's bad things about it. But one thing I really enjoyed were the Boneyard match.
Don't say it.
And the last man standing match.
Which was the last man standing? Is that Edge?
Edge and Randy Orton.
Okay, you're good. I thought you were going to say that stupid Firefly Funhouse.
Nah.
I was ready for that. It was horrible.
The entire thing.
Yeah, the Boneyard match was definitely unique. I get it, but I mean, yeah, it is what it is. You know, they're trying to make lemonades out of lemons, and it was probably the best they could have done in that situation. But the Firefly Funhouse match, I've watched everybody praise it. Oh, you don't get the symbolism between John Cena and Hogan. I'm like, yeah, I do. But also, too, if the old guys that I would have broken the business with, if you're standing there right beside the guy filming a comedy vignette of you doing this and him looking at you, they would have beat the shit out of me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because that's definitely just pulling down the veil of kayfabe and just bam. And it was just it was hideous.
It left my head spiraling. I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah, it was kind of messed up. I was not a fan of it, but hey, it is what it is.
What can you do?
What can I do? I'm not writing the checks. I get it.
Right. And the Edge and Randy Orton match, that was full of emotion.
That was my favorite match out of all of them. We watched I watched the ones that came on Saturday night, the first night. I watched those on Sunday right before the main deal, and I just kind of went through them. And, you know, my two favorite matches out of the whole thing were the Edge and Randy Orton match and then the Charlotte Flair match. And I can't even think of the girl that Charlotte worked, but it was a pretty decent match.
Rhea Ripley?
Yeah, it was entertaining. I'm a big Charlotte Flair fan. Say what you will. A lot of people are like, oh, she's only there because of what her father did. And I get it. You got to do what you got to do to get your foot in the door. And if my father was Ric Flair, yeah, I would use that to make some phone calls for me.
Oh, for sure.
But you cannot underestimate the athletic specimen that she is. She is. There's not an ounce of fat on that girl. She is athletic beyond all means, and you cannot knock her in-ring ability at all.
Oh, for sure. Off subject, another question I've got is, if there was one person that you really wanted to step in the ring with before you hang up your boots, who would that be?
Before I hang up my boots? Now, is this somebody that I wish
I'd like? Real quick. Yes. Hey, I'm in a podcast real quick. Anyway.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm good. But anyway.
One person, what about if they've already hung their boots up? Is that a possibility? If okay, I'll give you two answers. If there was one person I could have worked a match with before they retired, it would have been Ric Flair. If there's someone that's currently wrestling now before I retired, gosh, there's a lot of talent out there that probably everybody's going to say like The Undertaker or Seth Rollins or something like that. I don't know, man. Current talent, I think Cody Rhodes is really gifted. I've had the opportunity to meet Cody, and he's a super talent, and he's a very respectful, nice guy. I think he's got his plate full of trying to do some big things being competition, and I admire that. I think Kurt Angle just retired. Kurt Angle was a great technician that I didn't always see it then, but now that I look back on it, some of the stuff he did, really good. Probably have to say currently, probably Edge. Just Edge or Orton. And going back to that match, but, I've been fortunate to work with Randy's dad, Bob, a few times, and he's super great, but I've had my eye on Randy ever since he's been a young guy, and we're, around the same age and been in the business for about the same amount of time. I've got a couple more years on him, but he's got more popularity on him.
Oh.
But probably Randy Orton. Yeah.
I can see that. I definitely buy tickets for that.
We appreciate it.
Who is one of your favorite opponents that you've ever stepped in the ring with?
Man, I've had so many great guys I've had the opportunity of working with. One of my favorites anytime I get a chance to wrestle Mr. Saturday Night Michael Berry. Anytime, whether we team together, whether we wrestle each other, we always put a great match out there. Gosh, I've been asked this time and time again, and it's so hard to just nail down one particular person because I have so many great memories with so many of these guys. I have had a really good feud years and years ago. This was probably before your time. There was a guy that was a mid-stage champion called Pimp Tight Kevin Love Jones, and Kevin unfortunately passed away a few years back. But we had in my opinion, one of the best feuds that independent wrestling had at the time because it went on for years, and we told the story in multiple companies.
I gotcha.
So it came back. We probably wrestled each other 30, 40 times, and every time it seems like we got a little bit more out of it because we trusted each other so much. We literally went out there and beat the living piss out of each other, and that's what it boiled down to. So we had a couple barbed wire matches, and each one we took further. So we're pouring blood. I had a black eye for a week after it was over just because we'd literally go out there and trade blood. But we trusted each other. So that was always one of my favorites was just, and him not being here, it just puts a little sentimental,
for sure,
speckle on it.
You treasure the things that you really
absolutely did. Yeah. You can't get that again. It's regardless what you want to do. He's gone and you can't hear. So it's like you live vicariously. It's like when people look back on things and like, oh, the 80s were so great and this and that. What's nostalgia sells a lot of that. And it was just at a pivotal point in my career where we were doing our thing. And sorry, that popped up. We were doing our thing and it was so cool because we would do it somewhere and a promoter would see us do that and be like, we want you guys to bring that feud here. So many times in independence, you're stuck just doing one specific storyline in one company only. Mm-hmm. But we were able to continue that feud in several different companies, if that makes sense, which didn't really happen in indie wrestling 10, 12 years ago.
So recently I've seen that you've done a lot of work with WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler. What was one of your favorite moments with Jerry?
Backstage or in the ring?
Just in general.
Jerry's a great guy. I've had an opportunity to work with Jerry off and on for many years now. And, Jerry's such a great talent. I look up to him quite a bit of all that he's accomplished in the wrestling business. Single-handedly. He didn't single-handedly build Memphis, but he sustained it there for the longest time, some of its biggest houses that he's ever done. He has a tremendous mind for wrestling. So even the last time that he came in to mid-stage, which was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I picked him up at the airport, and I had to run in there, had to run by the house. And he's like, let's grab something to eat. So we went in, sat down, and got a pizza, and just sat and BS literally for an hour and a half of just, he's been around wrestling so long, he doesn't always just talk about wrestling. So we talked about, he's got a Batmobile, and he's obsessed with Superman. And so we just literally sat down and we talked comic books and we talked this and that. And just he's a really cool guy. One of my favorite moments is I got a chance to tag with Jerry Lawler. And we ended up turning it into like a 6-way match. It was myself, Gary Roosevelt Graham, and Jerry Lawler versus Michael Berry, Jim Fallon, and Doomsday. and it was in front of like 600 people, and it was just entertaining because we all went out there. Literally, we called that thing on the fly, and Jerry's such a professional guy to work with. He never gets excited about anything. He's so calm. He's so cool. He's so relaxed. And he complimented the match in the back, which was cool because a lot of the old guys, you know, they're just like, this, that, whatever. Yeah. But he complimented the match. He complimented, you know, our promotion, and he's always been great to work with. And here recently, we had him at CWA, and he won the Arkansas Heavyweight Championship from Matt Riviera. And were you at that event?
Yes, I was.
That was a good one. That was a good event.
I got to meet him. I told him pretty much he was the voice of my childhood.
Yep, you got it, man. Lawler's great, but Lawler's just a cool, entertaining guy. I'll show you if you ever get a chance. You come to Harrison, you come to the gym. I'll show you one of my prized collectibles. I have a folding chair from the Mid-South Coliseum.
Really?
And Jerry signed it at that last event for me. So he put Jerry the King Lawler, and he put the date AWA World Champion that he won the belt there in the Mid-South Coliseum. Awesome. So it's a very hard to get collectible, and it's kind of a one of a kind. So I had to have a Lawler
for sure. I do plan on going down to the gym this June. June 1st,
cool, man.
June 1st is my 18th birthday, and I've had this dream for years that I wanted to get inside the ring. And
I got it, man.
Now's the time to do it.
I tell people all the time they, this and that, and they contact me, and they're 35, 40 years old, and I'm like, hey, man, you can do it when you're younger. It's a lot better. And it's also, too, I tell people all the time, they're like, well, I don't know. Well, come down and try it. It's not going to be for everybody. If it was for everybody, we'd all be professional wrestlers.
Right.
So it at least gives them an opportunity to check it out, try a couple bumps, see if that's something they'd like to pursue. And if it's not, no big deal. Shake, cool. I'm glad you got a cool experience out of it. They usually leave there, number one, realizing that it's not a trampoline and it freaking hurts. Or B, maybe that's something that they want to check out and, try a couple more things. So it's a good experience for everybody to have, especially if you've been a fan for it. Sometimes it's just not in the cards. Sometimes it is. And then fast forward a couple years, and then the guy's in a match, a main event match in mid-stage or something. So
yeah, definitely.
I like that. I like giving the opportunity to certain guys that started off, and I remember their first day and they're in their training, and then fast forward a couple years, and then they're in a main event match for me or something, or we're in so-and-so and they want that guy, and they're getting bookings all over the place because of something that I instilled in them and helped them work at to obtain. So that means a lot. It's kind of like being a coach, but you take on more of almost a sport parent role at that point.
Right.
You're from them, and I go out of my way to help them get bookings and help them do this and that. And it's always cool when you can see somebody that started off the first day go on to something better, go on to something big, go on to something great. I mean, one of the girls that I trained, she took her first bump for me a couple years ago, and she's now under a Ring of Honor contract. So
really,
that's really cool. And she's put a ton of work in, but it's always cool seeing somebody on their very first day show up. They don't know a bump from a hole in the ground. You start off, simple things, and you see them start progressing, and then before you know, they start putting the work in, and they start taking your guidance and seeking bookings places, and then before you know it, they're on the main stage. That's really cool.
I had this dream so much so that I did my high school senior pictures in a wrestling ring here in Springdale.
Oh, that's cool.
There's a local independent company, WCWA, that has their training facility here in Springdale, about maybe 5 minutes from my house, that they let me go in and take my high school senior graduate pictures in their ring.
Nice.
And I mean, I was told from day one, like, find a real job, dude. Like, wrestling's nothing. And that's just pretty much going to use this as a, what'd you say to me again?
Yeah, I tell guys too that, if they're still in college, I encourage them to finish college. I encourage them to have a good job that they can fall back on, something that, and then when they get time and they want to work on it, most wrestling we do is travel is on the weekends for a lot of the guys starting out. And, have a good job that'll work with you and let you off on Saturday night so you can go and pursue your dream. Or a lot of guys, I understand it's going to be a hobby for them, and it'll never
Right.
be more than a hobby. But I've always been told, and I tell guys, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And if you put everything that you
Sure.
got into it, take a couple gambles in between, it's either going to pan out or you're going to land flat on your ass. But
Right.
either way, you know that you took that shot and you don't have regret. You're not a 50-year-old guy sitting there going, man, I wish I would have tried that when I was younger. At least you can try it. If it doesn't work out, hey, man, have something to fall back on.
Right.
So.
We were just talking about WrestleMania just a few minutes ago. Is there any certain WrestleMania moment that you say is your absolute favorite,
Uh,
just in history?
in history, I was at WrestleMania 9 when I was a kid in Las Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a big Bret Hart fan. So that was always a memorable moment. Was not necessarily my favorite, was seeing Bret Hart lose the belt, Hogan come out there, sprinkling some Hulk dust, and winning the belt back in 30 seconds. So that'll be a moment I'll never forget because I was there. I'd say my most memorable, and it's recently, is the whole, I'm sorry, I love you, Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair, because I'm such a Ric Flair fan. I'm a Shawn Michaels fan too, but I never thought that one of my favorite moments could come from something that's so new.
Right.
I figured it would be something from my childhood. Like, a lot of people say Warrior and Hogan WrestleMania 5, or is going to be Savage and Steamboat WrestleMania 3. But just all the emotion and all that stuff. And man, there's not a lot of dry eyes in the room if you go, even if I went watch that back right now, I'd probably get choked up a little bit watching it.
Yeah, I mean, Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels are on the Mount Rushmore of sports entertainment.
Absolutely.
You can talk about like Impact or AEW. Even then, you'll still somehow hear the name Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the most dominant talents in history of professional wrestling.
Absolutely, man. Two of the greats.
I'd have to say most really unpopular opinion, and I get kind of some iffy about this one, but at the main event of WrestleMania 20, when Guerrero and Benoit were holding up the main titles at the very end.
Yeah, it's a good moment. I have sometimes an unpopular opinion because that's a lot of people say that one more than anything, but I sometimes this goes unsettled because everybody has this fantasy about Chris Benoit being one of, and I get it, Benoit, and unfortunately the events that transpired, you're not allowed to talk about Benoit. I met Chris Benoit in Las Vegas at the Cauliflower Alley banquet when this is probably 2000 or 2001. I was there, and
wasn't born quite yet.
Yeah, great guy, super respectful guy, super nice. I'd been a fan of his back in WCW and even ECW. Then you look at Eddie Guerrero. I was a huge Eddie Guerrero fan in WCW, still in WWF, but that was still when I just didn't like the whole aspect of how far they took his character when they paired him up with China and all that stuff. I just felt like, oh, man, he wasn't broke. Why are you trying to fix him? But then you fast forward to that whole deal, and everybody's like, "Oh, that was the two greatest in the ring at all times, and they were good friends." And I get it, but I don't think, and a lot of people may shit on me for saying this, I don't think if Eddie Guerrero was still around today, he would be up here in everybody's mind as one of the greatest of all time.
Right.
Because just like we said earlier, we miss what we don't have.
Right.
And Eddie Guerrero is one of the greats, and I'm not going to argue that. And by all means, that's not what I'm saying. I think he's great. I think he's fantastic. But if Guerrero would have been around another 5 years, I think he might just be another name on the indies right now. I hate to say that, but that's what happens. But people, and there's so many people that age that it's like, have you ever been asked what's your favorite people say this. I use this as an example all the time. What was the best Saturday Night Live cast of all time? And usually people answer things when they're from the ages of 16 to like 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That was their idea of the best Saturday Night Live cast. And it's the same for wrestling.
Right.
So around that time, those people that are these diehard wrestling fans, that was in the epitome of like right now. I mean, I was 18 years old, right as the 18, 19 years old, as soon as the Attitude Era took off. So that was a big thing for me. But I was actually breaking into the business at the same time. So I saw it from both angles. I saw it from the outside. I saw it from the inside. So many people were coming of age around that time. That sensationalizes in their mind more than I think that it actually was.
Mm.
I get it. There were some great matches, and you throw Kurt Angle into that mix. But I don't think that if Eddie Guerrero was around today, he would be considered in everybody's Mount Rushmore that they talk about
Right.
here. And I hate to say that, but I've almost come to blows with people about it. Just them talking about it. I'm like, hey, I'm not bashing Eddie by any means because I love him, but I don't think if he was around today that you would be fussing and feuding over him like you
Right.
are. So
Oh, for sure. Now, we just talked about WrestleMania moments. What's your favorite, just in general, professional wrestling moments from any company? Just like match or.
I go back to all the time. I go back to the Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat trilogy from 1989 at WCW. They tore it down. We watched. My father and I watched Terry Funk and Ric Flair live. They did a TV tape in Little Rock, and everybody wrestled like twice that night. It was a TV tape, and then they did their regular house show. So we got to see Flair and Funk tear it down for like a 60-minute Broadway. That was really cool. Terry Funk and Ric Flair, and this was, I'm trying to guess, probably about that same time, 89, 90, somewhere right in there. That was really cool. I am a huge Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express advocate about their tag team matches being like the best of the best. So there's so many of those that I look back, and when I was a kid seeing that scaffold match for the first time, being in an arena, seeing the Road Warriors come down for the very first time live, there is such a thing as a Road Warrior pop, and I heard it when I was a kid. The minute that Iron Man hit, and that crowd went absolutely bananas. So those are, it make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It was really cool. Bobby Eaton and Arn Anderson, I go to that, and I make my students watch that match all the time and just see the nuances that Bobby Eaton was so ahead of his time and how he could handle himself in certain ways. And I would probably go on record just saying that any of those early Starcades and the matches that would pertain to the Horsemen or that first War Games, just being something new and being something creative. And I think I spoke to you on Facebook about Dusty Rhodes. I was a huge Dusty Rhodes fan, and, of course, a lot of that booking came from him. So I studied, he was the booker at the time, and I studied old NWA tapes. Even as I got older and I broke into the business, I would buy like 6-hour compilations and watch those old NWA Saturday nights and watch those angles that Dusty Rhodes would book. And a lot of people didn't like Dusty as a booker. They said that, he tried to push himself more and this and that and held certain talent back. But the bottom line when you're a good booker is it's money, and he was making Jim Crockett money, so they kept him around, and he did something right. Because looking about, there's so many things. I don't think Ric Flair would have been the big of a deal if he hadn't had an advocate like Dusty on the inside pushing him to be what he was, going out there and cutting those promos the way he did and building up those matches with the Horsemen, whether he was on the opposite side of the ring from Flair or whether it was Magnum TA or this or that.
Right.
And I just think Dusty was such a good advocate of that.
I think Dusty Rhodes played a huge inspiration on just any professional wrestler from even his time, and for people in generations ahead of us.
Mm.
I wasn't alive for most of Dusty Rhodes' time period.
Right.
But that doesn't stop me from going back and
sure
watching all of his stuff. Dusty's one of the best of all time.
Absolutely. And he had a way of delivering a promo. You look at Dusty and you'd be like, hey, who's the guy that's a professional athlete here? And there was jobbers on NWA that had a better wrestling by Dusty Rhodes. But it was just the fact that he he familiarized himself with that common man, and they were like, this guy's just like us. He's just like us. He's a common man. He works for a living, and he's just tough as nails, man. He can get his butt whipped. He's not a big bodybuilder like some of them, but he'll go out there and he'll get his butt whipped. But, man, he gets people behind him, and boom, 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 boom. That's what maybe, because I never had a bodybuilder physique or anything, but when I played a babyface role, that's the character development that I took, was taking what basically Dusty did and being a common man and just being, hey, man, he's a tough old fat boy, and that's kind of what I played when I was, babyface. Still kind of play off that role a little bit today. So I even stole the bionic elbow and still do the bionic elbow almost in every match. And that's just not so much stealing. That's just a little tip of my cap just to honor Dusty.
Oh, definitely. Like,
Yep.
one of the greatest promos, I think, in history of professional wrestling is his Hard Times promo.
Yeah. That's a good one, man. Put your hand on the
I go back
screen.
and watch it all the time. I mean,
yeah, it's he had some good raps and rhymes back in the day. You can look back, and I had a compilation video that I bought somewhere years and years ago. It was just from a guy, and I bought it like a 6 hours best of Ric Flair promos, and they were like 1984 to 1987, 1988, and literally every segment that he was out there, and I would sit and watch him. One night we decided to have a drinking game. Every time he wooed, we took a shot, and and so, literally we were drunk like 30 minutes into watching this thing. But then I bought a best of Dusty Rhodes promos and angles, and I watched that, and he did some pretty good promos. And
he knows how to work a mic.
Oh, absolutely. He knew how to work a crowd and put them right in the palm of his hand, and he's a great talent. And I think you see a lot of that. And I think you see a lot of it in Dustin. I think you see a lot of it in Cody. So
for sure.
That's cool.
What was one of your favorite feuds of all time?
My favorite of all time is the Midnight Express and the Rock and Roll Express. Even though it's a tag team feud, if it is a singles feud, it's going to be Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat. Just because of the matches they could put on. So great. They're just so great. They didn't have to do a lot of gaga off the screen, because they told the story in the ring, and they just meshed so well. Yeah. I also enjoyed Sting and Ric Flair when Sting, because, single-handedly, Ric Flair put Sting on the map. I know he was something, that people were watching, but he went him out there and he was like, give me that kid. I'm going to take him an hour Broadway. And it just put him on the map, and I think it elevated Sting into, I dare say, the Hulk Hogan of the South, but that's kind of what ended up happening. Yep.
I think with me, a feud that I always enjoyed. I have 3 top feuds. I can't pick one. I can't pick one of the 3. It was Austin and McMahon.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels and Triple H. And Kane and The Undertaker.
Huh. Yeah.
It might sound a little cliche on the last one because those 2 are my favorites of all time. But
yeah.
Kane and Undertaker both know how to work a wrestling ring and each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, they're great talents. You named 6 great talents. I was never really a Triple H fan. But that's not taken away from his ability to sustain a career.
Oh, man.
For 30 years of whatever, politics aside or BS. He's still a great in-ring performer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Undertaker, he's played a huge inspiration on my soon-to-be wrestling career.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not wrestling yet, but I have to give credit where credit's due, and that belongs to The Undertaker.
That's cool.
Because he even just mentioned he has far more matches behind him than he does ahead of him. But no matter how many surgeries, no matter how many injuries he's had, he still got back up, dusted off the old hat and coat, and went out to the ring and gave it the best he has.
Yeah.
And I really admire that because he has that never give up attitude.
He's like Santa Claus, right?
Oh, definitely.
He comes one night a year.
Yeah. And Kane, he was the first guy I ever watched take an entrance whenever I was little. I was about 3. And I was 2, sorry. I just turned 2 for Kane versus Shane McMahon Survivor Series of 2003, I think, somewhere around there. Um, Ambulance match. I seen the pyro and I seen everything, and that just made me immediately think, I like
That's
it.
pretty cool, huh?
So much so that I tell the story a lot. Whenever I used to walk around the house as a little one, I'd put a dish towel over my head because Kane used to walk to the ring with a black towel over his head to hide all the scars. I used to walk around the house and just wear that, and my family would be like, what's going
That's a
on?
good story, man.
But uh, for anybody that wants to take a step into the ring for the first time,
Mhm.
what tips would you give people that could be watching this, uh, having some thoughts about getting in the ring?
The first thing that I say is, so many places I've had the fortunate, I've been in this business 23 years and I've been able to travel, and there's a lot of places I go to, and there's just some horrible talent that would have been back in my day with the old guys and the old timers coming through. They would have thrown them out, and no questions out. They should have been flushed down the toilet. So many times now you have people that go and get half-ass training, pardon the language or the expression, a half-ass training from someone, and then they go and start training someone. So they're taking half the knowledge that this person taught them and only keeping half of that and passing it on to this person. And that person they end up training people or something down the road. There's so many people that are training professional wrestlers that haven't been in the business more than 5 years that still weren't good wrestlers in the beginning. So much of it has been lost, and it's been bastardized and watered down, that some of those people you get in the ring with, you don't feel safe with them in there. The first thing you have to realize, when you're in a professional wrestling ring, you're going to be in there with someone, and their life is in your hands.
Right.
Your life is in their hands. You are 1 inch at any given time away from paralysis. So for someone that doesn't take what I've done and been able to make a career out of for 23 years and not take that seriously, they need to go find something else to do. They need to go find another hobby. They need to buy a ticket instead of being on my side of the guardrail, if
Right.
that makes sense. And I take what I do seriously in the respect of when I broke in when I was young, of how the old timers protected it. They wanted to make sure that you were doing things diligently and doing them correctly. And now there's so many people that are just like, yeah, come up, show up, and I'll show you how to bump, flip-flop around, and this and that. And they try to start try to put all this work into making these matches, and they don't even understand psychology themselves. Number two, don't even know half the things that you're supposed to do. I mean, I went and had a match I'll leave companies out of it just to stay the same, but it was like a four-way match. And I just told the kid, the young guy, and he was like, oh, we're from, and they had drove like 13, 14, hours away to be there. So they gave the kid a match. It was like, hey, put him in ours. It's no big deal. And it was like elimination style.
Mm-hmm.
And I had two of my students that were, that I had trained the proper way, and they're in the match with this. And this guy was like, oh, I've had 20 some odd matches and blah, 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 blah. And they were like, okay. So they were laying out a match, boom, boom, boom. And the guy didn't know how to do this. He didn't know how to do this. He's like, well, I do this move. And they're like, okay, I can do that, but what's the point? How are you getting from there to there? So I just told him, I was like, hey, you and I will start it off. We'll tie up in the middle. And like, dude didn't know how to do a simple collar and elbow tie up. And that is the basis of like professional wrestling. That's like day one stuff that you learn with me on the first day. Those are building blocks. My students get tired of me saying, like, if you build a pyramid, what you got to do is you have to lay down these big stones, and these are going to be your building blocks. So I show them the essentials of the building blocks are your bumps, are your collar and elbow tie-ups, and your simple basic moves. Then when you learn that and you have a really good base and a really good footing, then you can start adding on, and you can start building your layers and learning this and learning that until eventually you've built a huge career and you know how to take care of it. You know how to have a match. And my head almost exploded that one of my students would have learned in in 3 workouts, what this guy had learned in 6 months of his career. Number one, my guys don't step foot in a ring until they're fully trained. I think that's where a lot of promoters make the mistake. They just start throwing guys out there and this and that. And that's just a huge mistake. But the first thing is do some research on who's training you. Who were they trained by? Where have they been? The old expression, a lot of guys, who'd you ever beat? Well, anybody that throws me in their Google machine is going to realize I've been around for a long damn time. I've done countless accolades in the business, not just in the ring, but behind the camera and everything else. And, if I look at a guy that's training people, say he's training people in BFE, Georgia or something, if that guy's never been outside of his 100-mile radius, why would you go be trained by that guy and think that your career is going to be any bigger than he is?
Right.
So I think a lot of guys make the mistake of doing that. So do some research, do some, back in the day, the big trick was make somebody pay $3,000 up front, beat the living piss out of them, and then never come back and, haha, Mark, we got your money, you're never coming back. Well, I try to do things a little bit differently. I understand not everybody can just throw out $3,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is. So I try to work with guys. They can come their first time to work out with me. It's $50. If you decide you want to continue on, we take that and we apply it to your monthly gym dues. And I work with people like that. If you don't take what you're doing seriously in there, and I can see it, and this is just a hobby or something for you, I just ask you not to come back. And it's no disrespect, but it's a huge disrespect to me that you're disrespecting all those other guys that you're taking what they want to do professionally as a joke, if that makes any sense. You are in there with me. Why am I going to let you give me a vertical suplex if I don't know if you're going to land on your ass and paralyze me or whatever? So guys aren't trained properly. They're getting in there. They're hurting people. They don't know how to put together a great match. And, I find it as a compliment when I do go to places. A lot of times the promoter will send their younger guys over to me or whatever and get my opinion of a finish or get an opinion of a spot or an angle in a match. And I'm more than glad to lend my help if I can see that they're willing to do it right. And not only am I going to tell them what I think was work, I will explain why it works. And that's lost in professional wrestling today. So many guys just want to go out there and do moves and be spot monkeys and do this and this and this. You have to learn how to tell a story, because if those people don't give a flying flip about you, why are they coming back to watch you?
Exactly.
These guys walk out there and they don't have gear and they look like crap and you look like the garbage man. Why would you go buy a ticket to see the garbage man? I can sit out here on Thursday morning and watch my garbage man and dump my trash can out for free. So why would you go pay money to see someone that doesn't, number one, know what he's doing, and number two, look the part? And so I tell guys not just that. After it's over, you work on the professional part about it, getting bookings and doing this and carrying yourself in a professional manner. Because if you're going to be considered a professional wrestler, I think it's the whole package that you got to have. You got to have the look. You got to have the knowledge. You have to have the skills. And if you don't have those, you need to find something else to do.
Right.
One other thing I tell people when they are serious and say they came to me and they've worked out and like they've tried all their bumps and this and that, and they're like, hey, I decided I want to do this. What I tell guys is I'm not going to come in and I'm not going to do like a lot of places and make you do 1,000 Hindu squats and then run wind sprints till you puke, then get in there and try to show you a headlock takeover. You do your cardio on your own time. I tell guys to work and jump rope. That's the best cardio condition you have. I owned a boxing gym for years and promoted boxing. Jumping rope in one place is one of the best cardio, exercises that you can do. You've got to have a good heart rate. There's guys that can get in there, and I've had semi-pro football players come and work out with me. I've had boxers. I've had MMA fighters. And the first time that they take a shoulder tackle and a back bump and I make them get up and do it right again, they're blown sky high because they don't know how to pace each other. Right. I'm a 300 fat guy, but I know how to pace myself in the ring. There's called bump shape. I can take a bump and I can keep going because you learn how to pace yourself.
Right.
And somebody used to go on 90 miles an hour, they're not used to that. So the first time they take a bump and they get the wind knocked out of them, they're spent. They're done. They're screwed. You know,
Right.
I've to my benefit, I've had a concussion 2 minutes into a match, finished said match. I tore my ACL and wrestled another 13 minutes in a match with a blown knee that I couldn't move. But I knew that if I didn't go through with it, it was going to be, I was going to put the promoter, number one, in a bad position and everything else. But I also knew psychology, how I could work around that, if that makes any sense. How I could work around that, what I could do to call to the other guy to cover for that. But the last thing I wanted to do, especially if it's a semi-main event spot, I didn't want to go over there and screw the match over in 2 minutes and take it home and you got a pissed off crowd, because you make your money when the crowd comes in the arena, right? And so I tell guys to focus on their cardio, do their weightlifting and stuff. Do that stuff on your own time. And then when we get here and you've got 2 rings set up in one gymnasium, take advantage of ring time. There's a reason that guys still that have been in the business 20 years, Ace Steele's been in the business 25 years and he's working for NXT at the Performance Center. There's a reason when he was out for 2 years why he drove down from Springfield, Missouri to work out in my ring, because there's ring shape. You can run all you want on a treadmill. You can hit the gym. You can hit the weights. You can do whatever. But it doesn't take the place of actually being in there and bumping around in the ring. So even when a guy that's trained some of the greats, you look at CM Punk that he's trained, you look at Lita, you look at all those other guys that he's put in the business and all of his knowledge, still when it was time for him to get back in ring shape, he had to come down and get in the ring, start working out. So I tell guys, don't take advantage of the ring time. I mean, yeah, please take advantage of the ring time. Don't take it for granted.
Right.
Lift weights, do your cardio on your own time. But when you're here and you're only here for 2 hours, let's work out in the ring. Let's get some ring work done. Mm-hmm. So that's what I tell guys usually about the 2 or 3 things that I like to tell them. Number one, go somewhere that's reputable, that's at least going to follow through. Maybe somebody that's running a company, so you know that you've got some place to work after your training, not just some guy like training you in your barn that doesn't have a ring or anything and just trying to, whatever. Make sure that they've been in the business 15, 20 years and they know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. They have legit connections. They're working themselves. They can take you with them on bookings under their wing and get you bookings and things like that. This whole mindset of, I'm going to start training and I'm going to have matches in a couple months, it's garbage. It's horse crap. And anybody that's worth a damn would never take advantage of someone like that outside of the business to try to bring them in that way and try to make a quick buck off of them. I'm not about that. I think too much, and I have too much respect for professional wrestling to do that to myself and to other people.
Yeah, and one thing that I see too that you would really need whenever you're in professional wrestling is passion for what you're doing. You don't go into a wrestling ring and just say, I'll just apply for it, and if I get it, I get it. I mean, you gotta want to.
Sure.
You can tell a lot of passion in somebody by the way they wrestle. And like my first time seeing you wrestle, November 17th in Springfield, Missouri, it was a Falls Count Anywhere street fight. You and no man Nate Winchester with Jesse Inman as the referee.
Yeah.
First time seeing you wrestle, and I mean, I can tell that that's what you love to do. Like,
absolutely,
just with anybody. Like,
well, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you just have to have a certain want to.
Absolutely.
Like, there's a lot of people that I talk to as well that I know wants to as well, like Alan Jefferson. Again, I mentioned Nate Winchester, Jimmy Fiasco.
Right.
The guy that you're going to have a match with whenever all this is over with, Johnny Lightning.
Yeah. Sure enough, man.
I see great amounts of passion in all of y'all. And that passion radiates to me because, I mean, for my entire life, all I've wanted to do is get in the ring. And here I am, fingertips away. And having that passion radiate to me, it's like, well, they want to. That's building me up. I want to. Let's make it work.
Yeah, there you go.
And I mean, I've never. It's gonna happen soon. I've never took a bump in a ring at all. But I can tell you, with that first one, it's just. I feel like it's just gonna be like a dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah, for a lot of people, it's either, especially if they're real passionate about the building or about the business, it's either a dream come true or a look of total shock and oh my God in their eyes of that was not a trampoline and I've been watching this. And those are the people that have strong opinions like, oh, that pansy took that bump like a pansy, or whatever, this or that. The minute that they take that first bump and they realize, guys, hey man, you guys have saw pictures. I don't have to say that over and over. It's a patio deck under a thin layer of padding. The padding is there so it doesn't pinch your shoulders when you do hit and the boards bounce. Everybody's like, oh, there's big padding. No, there's not. If there was thick padding, you wouldn't be able to run. You would sink in the padding, so you have to have a quote-unquote fasting. And some people, reality sets in, oh, my God, this is not a trampoline. This actually hurts. And a lot of times they walk away with a greater respect for what those do in professional wrestling that they never looked at it quite like that before. When they watch Raw or they watch a pay-per-view or something like, oh, my God, that's not just blah, 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 blah. Well, maybe they have a different ring. No, they're all the same. Trust me, I bumped in them all, man. I bumped in rings, been booked on places, booked in 10-foot by 10-foot rings. I've been booked in 24 by 24-foot rings. And at the end of the day, it's all a bunch of lumber under there. And everybody's like, well, there's a spring. Well, the spring's there to keep the metal from bowing. That's all it is. And I've been in plenty of rings without springs, and they don't help one bit. It's, hey, look, man, it's impact. It's fall. Go outside on your patio deck and fall down right now. And I think the bump surveys that the Arkansas Athletic Commission had produced from the Vegas fight, they accredit every bump to being in a car accident at 35 miles an hour. Well, I've got rear-ended before being parked and the car behind me doing 20 miles an hour and having severe whiplash. So think about what that can do if you're taking 15 bumps in a match. So you can't deny that the people that are in the business know what they're doing. If not, they're going to quickly get the hell out of it because they weren't trained properly or this or that. But if you got to be – there's no way around it. Used to the wrestling they said was just for the big, tough guys. And even though the size barrier has been knocked down quite a bit, it's not for the weak of heart, and it's not for people that aren't tough. And if you have your dreams and you say that you're going to make it happen, you're going to play through that and make it happen regardless, or at least go down fighting. I'm going to go down trying. And so it quickly weeds a lot of the people out that definitely don't want it or they're just as I'll try this. Those people are gone really quick.
Yeah. So what is your reaction being a professional wrestler whenever you hear somebody say that the stuff that you do is fake? Because I hear that all the time. Like whenever I tell somebody that that's what I want to do, I'm always, that's fake, right?
Well, the thing I always come back with is back the old timers back in the day, you didn't dare say the word fake in front of them. It's like, it slapped the piss out of you. But, hey, man, I take my kids to the movies. Guess what? Movies are fake.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of entertainment that's fake. I like to go see a nice a magician. I've been to Vegas and watched Penn and Teller. It's fake, right? Yeah, but it's also entertainment. It's a form of entertainment. I don't like the F word. I don't like the fake word because there's nothing about what I do falling down that is fake. I can't fake that. God knows I would love to try because my body is beat up and bruised up for doing it for 23 years. But the emotions that I'm going to put that crowd through that night, those aren't fake. Those are genuine, and that's what I like. It's a form of entertainment.
Right.
Come in and bring your family in, have a seat, grab a bag of popcorn and a Coke, and just forget about your problems for 2 hours. Just like when you go to a movie, you check out, get lost in that reality, and have a good time, man. See it for what it is. I know that the mission is not sawing the lady in half.
Right.
And I see it, and I'm like, hey, that's a good trick. And, man, he did it with such flair, and he did this and that. Don't show me how the trick's done because then I'm going to be looking for it all the time. Sometimes it's cool just to go back and just enjoy the show that you're watching.
Right.
So I tell people that, yeah, man, movies are fake. So, and then, oh, yeah. And then they'll say, well, I know it's, it's got to hurt fall. You got to know how to fall. Well, of course you got to know how to fall properly. You're going to paralyze yourself. But, a lot of the old guys, like I would have broke in with, they're just going to slap the living piss out of you if you said it was fake. But I'm also not, Vince jerked that veil off a long time ago in calling it sports entertainment. You can't put Pandora back in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Pandora's been out. All you can do is kind of go with it. If they like what you do, that's cool, man. Don't come out and watch it if it's not your thing. No harm, no foul, man.
Right.
I don't. Someone obviously has an axe to grind if they come up to me and just to confront me and say, "Oh, you do that fake crap." I don't care. I promoted a lot of MMA fights and boxing fights, and I'd much rather go watch a wrestling match where I knew I was going to get a 10-minute contest as opposed to someone getting punched one time and giving up in 30 seconds.
Right.
I've promoted those shows. I did a night of 12 boxing matches, and it was a big night. It was in Mountain Home, Arkansas. And we matched all the fighters up. We would put one local guy from Mountain Home in each match, and usually matched up against a guy from Harrison or a guy from, wherever the case of it is. That way each hometown guy had a match.
Mm-hmm.
12 matches. And the camera guy would record the DVDs and they would sell the DVDs. If you compressed all the footage that was in those fights that night, there was less than 15 minutes of action in 12 matches. And that included their entrance to the ring, because every match didn't make it the first 60 seconds. They either gave up or they got knocked out, and most of them gave out in the first round. So if you spent your Saturday night buying a ticket for $15, I appreciate you guys doing that, by the way. If you spent your Saturday night doing that and you saw the guy that you worked with, that you were there to root on, and he gave up in 60 seconds, or if he won in 60 seconds, still anticlimactic, and you're pissed off.
Right.
Well, I know that if you go watch a professional wrestling show, I'm going to give you a 2.5-hour show of excitement. If that first match only went 5 minutes and we're running low on time or whatever, hey, man, the next match may go 45. Right. I can control that, and you can control that in professional wrestling. And you're going to get your feel-good match, and you're going to get your drama match, and you're going to get your this and that. So it's a matter of giving it all those. I think the best movies are movies that you watch that have a little action, that have some comedy mixed in them, and you can tell a story, that have a storyline that you can follow. And that's the deal with pro wrestling, man. You either like it or you don't.
Right.
But sometimes I find the people that don't or have something negative to say are someone that hasn't really went and given it a chance. Or they're comparing it to something that they saw WCW do in 2001 that was stupid or far-fetched.
Right.
Well, not all of it is the same, man. I like Mexican food, but not every Mexican restaurant is the same, right?
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I took my buddy, who's not really the biggest wrestling fan, with me to No Surrender back in January.
Yeah.
And he walked out, and the first thing he said was, "When's the next event?"
Yeah, there you go.
Like, that made me feel good, because I'm like, he was telling me at first, he's like, I'm not really a wrestling fan, right? I said, dude, give it one show.
Yeah.
I said, you're not going to go into, if you don't know what's going on, you won't like it.
Yeah.
But if you go into it with an open mind, then
sure,
you're going to like
absolutely.
it. And he went in, he met Jerry, and I didn't even say anything about it. We had literally walked through the doors, and all he said was, all right, so when's the next one?
Yeah.
I mean, they had already mentioned, unfortunately, it couldn't happen, Super Break.
Super Break, yeah. Man, that was crazy. We had to cancel that. I mean, there was over like $7,000 in tickets that we refunded for that event. And it's a shame that didn't get to happen. But it is what it is. I mean, nobody can control what's going on right now. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, you guys came to CWA, and he had never been. And then when it's over, he had an open mind. He watched it. He had a good time. Got to interact with the fans. When's the next one? Right. And that's usually what I tell people. Hey, bring your family out one time. Look, if you don't like it, don't come back. But I guarantee you're probably going to like it, because your kids are going to have a great time. You're going to have a good time watching your kids interacting, with everything that's going on, booing the bad guys and cheering the good guys, man, it's just something that it's just a part of, honestly, Americana, as corny as that sounds.
Right.
But I enjoy it. It makes me enjoy what I do. If I can go out there and get a reaction and make someone boo me when I'm a bad guy and cheer me when I'm a good guy and look out there to a family and kind of make eye contact with their parents and they grin and they give me a thumbs up that their kids are having a good time, that's what makes it worthwhile. When the kid comes over and wants my autograph, that he's taking time out of his day to come over and get me to sign something or sign a picture, that means the world to me growing up a wrestling fan, because I knew when I was a kid and you would go to the matches, very rare did you ever get to meet a wrestler back in the day. They didn't come out and sign autographs. And people are under the illusion, too, if you go to a WWF event or WWE event, that they're going to be out there signing autographs. You're not even going to get close to them, folks, especially the bigger event you go to. You're not even going to get to go down on the floor. The closest you're going to get to is buying a T-shirt from the merchandise stand, and that's it. If you're lucky, you might be able to stand behind the gated area and watch them get in their car, and that's it, and they might wave. But that's it. So when we have our events, we try to always do VIP meet and greets so the guys go out there and they can meet.
Mm-hmm.
My guys are out there. They're going to take a picture with their kids. They're not going to charge your kids any money to take a picture with them. They're going to stand there and sign every autograph that you ask them to sign, because they realize that you guys have bought a ticket and you came there to support the professional wrestling company that they work for. And all the guys that I have on my roster and CWA and some of the others that I work for, they're proud in where they work, and they want, even if they're a bad guy and you've booed them and you've cheered them, they're the biggest, I guarantee you none of them will refuse to sign an autograph for you and take a picture.
Sure. And I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I give the guy a whole lot of crap whenever he goes out to the ring, but he's one of my greatest friends, Matt Revere.
Oh, yeah, man.
He goes out to the ring. Like, it's been an ongoing battle since I first met him in August of last year. I mean, it's just been on and on. I mean, we both talked all the time. We message each other through Instagram all the time. We talk.
That's cool.
We're good friends, but whenever we're in the professional wrestling scene, I'm a fan. He's the
there you go.
We're like neck and neck. I mean,
yeah, Matt's a tremendous talent. I've known Matt for many, many years, and we've had the pleasure of doing a lot of stuff together, back with TCW to Mid-States to CWA. And, we just I always enjoy being around him, but he's a heck of an entertainer. I enjoy it. And there's a cast of characters. Anytime you come out to one of our events, you're going to see guys that you like and guys that you hate, and we hope that you like the right amount of them and hate the right amount of them enough to get a reaction out of you in some way.
I can safely say that there's not a guy that I hate.
Yeah, that's good.
I can safely say that. And, I mean, of course, there's going to be people that I boo, but,
oh, yeah.
And that typical fan.
Sure.
Like, the first time I met one of my good friends, Johnny Lightning, I booed the crap out of him.
Yeah.
He had his match against Fiasco in Springfield, which you probably don't want me to mention, but, well, I'm sorry. Sorry, Lightning. But, I mean, it was just that's just any time with a fan. You hate him. It's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like
absolutely.
That event in Springfield was my first ever indie show. I've been to a couple WWE events, but I've never been to an independent show. And my brother, he's the one that took me.
Mm-hmm.
He messaged me. He's like, "Hey, man, you want to go to a wrestling event with me?" I said, "Well, who are you talking to?" Of course.
Absolutely, I want to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he knows that I've had this passion for wrestling ever since I was little. I mean, really, he's my stepbrother, but who cares?
Right, yeah.
Oh, so
I understand.
Great guy. Yeah, I mean, I remember it was a ladder match that really stuck with me. Gary Graham and Golden Boy Greg Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Ladder matches have always been my favorite match. One of my favorite matches anywhere.
No, that was a really good match. I saw a lot of ladder matches, and it was a really good match. Really good match. Oh, and hey, for you guys that are with us on this or whatever, if you guys want to see that ladder match, go check out mswtickets.com. You can buy those DVDs. We're shipping them out right now. We have like a 2-day turnaround, and we have a special on our shipping. It's a quarantine special. Any shirt, any DVD, it's only $2.85 to ship. So that's a hell of a deal because it normally we'll
in there.
Put that link on there. It's mswtickets.com, and also my website. I had it years ago, and I just got it back this last week. It's spacecowboywrestling.com. It'll take you to some of my T-shirts and DVDs and stuff on there as well. But, yeah, check that out, man. We've like I said, we're losing money on our shipping right now just to put some product out there, and that way you guys can have content watching while you're under quarantine.
Right.
So,
and I did buy, while I was at the event in Siloam Springs, I got me a little sticker from my phone case.
Attaboy. I appreciate it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, figure spread some love while I can.
There you go, man. We appreciate it. That helps us get down the road a little bit further every time somebody buys one of our shirts or pictures or trading cards or whatever the case of it is. And I tell the guys, hey, man, buy those. Like I just took orders today. We have our last event in Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, pretty much the last wrestling show. And right now it's the Mid-Stage Wrestling March 7th in Harrison. And I have those. I'm just got a couple orders of those out. But I tell guys all the time, I'm like, look, man, that helps support the company that you work for.
Right.
That helps us pay the light bill in the training facility. I mean, right now, we're not training anybody until the first part of May, and we're just doing one-on-one workouts only. But, it's not like rent stops, when a quarantine happens. It's not like electric bills stop. It's not any of that stuff. So fans are, we appreciate the support from the fans that are logging on and buying one of our DVDs or buying our T-shirt or this or that, because that goes to help pay our rent on that gym that we're not collecting any gym dues on, or anything right now. So, hey, one other thing, let me get a real quick plug in there.
For sure.
I'm supposed to be in Las Vegas this week at the Cauliflower Alley deal, and I had a vendor booth there. One of our top shirts we had this last year is the Make Wrestling Great Again shirts in red. So those are available on mswtickets.com or my site, spacecowboywrestling.com. So log on, buy a DVD, buy a T-shirt, and that way we can pay rent. We can pay our electric bill and all that good stuff.
One thing, too, with wrestling, a great character has to have some great music. Now, I love your entrance music, Kickstart My Heart, Motley Crue. I'm a lifelong fan of Motley Crue. I mean, Motley Crue had it a lot before I was born, but I was fortunate enough to grow up in a house that played nothing but, like, classic rock, like Journey, Metallica, Def Leppard, Motley Crue,
Right.
And, I mean, I was going to get to go see him in, where was it? I think Kansas City?
June, it's like June 24th or something
like that.
I've got it marked, and I was just about ready to log on and buy my tickets, and then all this quarantine stuff happened. So I was like, maybe I'll just pump the brakes right now.
Right.
Because, nosebleeds were $200 and some odd for nosebleeds and that. And I've saw Motley Crue in concert. I've saw Poison in concert. I saw Def Leppard in concert. I've even saw Joan Jett. But I haven't saw them all together, and that was going to be one hell of a concert. And Motley Crue, I said it last night on Facebook Live. They have almost a brand new resurgence because of The Dirt, the movie that they did for Netflix out. And I've been a Motley Crue fan for a long time. And but you were brought up right. I know you like Metallica. I went and saw Metallica this last year when they were in Little Rock.
I did too.
They're just great. They're still rocking and rolling after. But they were probably a big part of the soundtrack of my high school years. And but yeah, I do like all the great classic, man. That good stuff. I know a lot of people give me hell about her. My buddy calls it butt rock. Man, I love it. You say what you will about it.
Yeah, I do
My
too.
playlist is the most random stuff in the world, but it's the stuff I like. They don't have to like it. They can kiss my ass, right?
Right. Metallica concert, I mean, it meant so much to me. I caught their set list.
Attaboy.
And James Hetfield threw a pick at the end of Moth into Flame, and it hit me in the face.
Did you get it?
I got it.
Attaboy.
It was dream come true seeing Metallica. And I
Mhm.
mean, with great character, again, you have to have great music. And I feel like if you have the right music for your character, then it's just going to be your character is just going to blow up.
I tell guys all the time that, that's the stuff that comes on later when you talk about character development. But listen, it's the minute that you walk through that curtain, you're on. It's not from bell to bell. It's from the minute you walk through that curtain to the minute you leave that curtain till the minute you leave that arena that night. It's the everything about your character is how you carry yourself when you're at your merchandise table and everything else that portrays. They're not just remembering you from when the bell rang to the bell rang. No, they remembered what you did when you came out.
Oh, definitely.
If they booed you or cheered you and how you reacted, if you came out like a house of fire and, but you're absolutely right. It does help paint that picture. That's why I tell people the whole professional package makes the thing. It's the way you look, the way you carry yourself, the way I show up to an arena, the way you carry yourself. If you carry yourself like a professional, people will take you more seriously as a professional. It's like the analogy I told earlier about the garbage man,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of Duke Drosy, Duke the Dumpster Drosy. He's the only guy that can do it.
Right.
But nobody wants to see a guy in, blue jeans and a T-shirt in there when they just look like the guy down the street.
Right.
They want the guy out there that's professional gear, that carries himself with professionalism, that knows what he's doing in that ring. If not, it's trash.
Yeah, it's like, don't try to be the next somebody else. Be the first you.
It's good. That's good stuff.
Like, with any superstar, like, you can tell, like, if they had, like, with The Undertaker, if he had something other than the gong, you wouldn't really, like, who's this? The gong fits the dead man character.
Yep.
Stone Cold with the glass shatter.
I agree.
I mean, you have to have something that fits your character, not just like having me go out just for the sake of being a Metallica fan, me going out with like Hardwired or Atlas Rise or something.
Yeah, everything tells a story, man. Everything fits for a reason, man. But yeah, you're right. Those are all great additions to great wrestlers.
And one more question before I jump off here.
Mhm.
Do you have any hints on the future of the Space Cowboy?
Well, I tell you what, this week I'm actually going to the Viral Pro Studios, and we're recording 3 episodes of Viral Pro Wrestling. You guys can check that out. It's viralwrestling.com. And some of your top independent superstars from the whole independent scene here in this area, the Central States area. You're talking myself, Jimmy Fiasco, Niles Planke, Miranda Gordy, Magnificent Malico, Chandler Hopkins. You're talking all this great talent in one area, and you can log on your phone, you can log on your TV, and you can watch it from the comfort of your own living room or your bathroom or whatever you do with your cell phone. That's between you and the Lord. But it's viralwrestling.com. Check it out. You can pay by the episode. It's as low as $7, or you can buy like a pass and you get like a month's worth of episodes for like $20. It's totally awesome, and it's a way to help support those independent wrestlers. It's all into a collective fund, and it works really good. But it's a good chance for us to put content out there and help get us wrestling, but it allows us to have a creative outlet as well.
Right.
So, there's I think my last match in front of a crowd was March 7th, and I've had to cancel. I'm right at 40 bookings now. Right now, I've lost, and that is my Monday through Friday job. It's
Right.
professional, and that's what I do. That's how I pay my bills. So, us having to cancel events,
Yeah.
postpone events, we're not set. We've got tickets for sale, but people simply aren't buying right now because it's this time of uncertainty.
Yes.
So us being able to go and do viral wrestling is a really cool thing. You're going to see the debut of some more new guys, and they're out there every week. We put a new episode out every week, and there's some new talent showing up this week. And the footage is edited, professional quality. It's great graphics. play-by-play commentary available on them, and they're only $7 an episode. Or like I said, you can get a pass, and there's even some donation packages. Like if you donate $100, you can book your own match. So it's pretty cool. You can book if you want to see Niles Plonk versus the Space Cowboy. You can do that. It's pretty cool, and it's a good creative outlet. There's a lot of backstage, behind-the-scenes interviews. I've got some sit-down interviews that are on there. But it's viralwrestling.com. Check that out if you guys get a chance. If you'll post that link up, I'd appreciate it when you post this. There's some great talent, and I sat down. They sent me a link to one of the episodes that I was in, and most of the time, if I get a link to an episode, I'm like, I fast forward straight to my match. I want to watch that, and then I don't care. This is actually one that I sat and watched from the beginning to the end because I enjoyed the commentary. I enjoyed the other matches. Some great, and it's filmed in a closed studio. And it's usually filmed in front of like 3 to 4 what they have masked their germs.
Right.
So they have germs. They're in a hazmat suit with a green mask on. So it's not as awkward as watching WWE where it's just in a quiet atmosphere. The germs are cheering the good guys and they're booing the bad guys. So it's some interaction.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of fun. But we do that from a closed set. And it's really neat, but that's what I've got going on this week. I leave out Friday for that. Other than that, I'm just kind of playing things by ear. Like I said, I was supposed to be in Vegas this week at the Cauliflower Alley. That got canceled. I had to cancel the event that was last weekend. It was going to be Siloam Springs, and we had the Warlord booked on that. So right now, everybody, I probably answer 5-6 emails a day. It's when's the next mid-state show? When's the next show in Arkansas? When's the next show in Missouri? As of right now, we have one tentative date on the calendar, and it's Saturday, June the 20th in Springfield, Missouri at the Relics Event Center. That was the postponed date from March the 28th, and we have been working hand in hand with the Missouri State Athletic Commission. They've been absolutely great to work with, and the venue there, they've been nothing but great, and the city of Springfield. So hopefully that event goes off great. And if something happens, you'll never get stuck with a ticket from us. We will refund tickets or we will carry out tickets. So even if you guys log on, you're like, well, I don't know if we'll be able to make that or what you buy a ticket with us. If you buy a ticket and we end up having to postpone the event, we gladly refund or we go ahead and rain check your tickets to the next event. So you're not out at a total loss or anything like that when you buy anything. So that does, like I said, it helps us get some more stuff out there. And we're hoping as soon as we get the green light, we'll have new dates booked, and then we'll start promoting, all those other shows, Siloam Springs and Harrison, Arkansas, and, of course, Springfield. And look forward to seeing this year if everything goes back to normal. So we're hoping everything goes back to normal. And, just like and follow me on Facebook. I've been doing an interview show called the Space Cowboy Show and Tell. I've been doing that on my official Facebook. It's the Space Cowboy Jason Jones on Facebook, and then you can follow me on Instagram. It's Space Cowboy Jason Jones, I believe. I've got Twitter, but I don't ever really put anything new on there. It's just all Facebook links. So,
yeah, I'll be at the June 20th Springfield show front and center. There's 2 main matches that I'm really looking forward to. Your tag team match teaming with Jesse Inman versus Johnny Lightning and Winchester, and my 2 really good friends, Matt Riviera and Alan Jefferson, battling out for the Mid-States gold.
Dude, I would love to see the Alan Jefferson underdog upset Matt Riviera and become a Mid-States Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. He might be if Alan Jefferson wins, and he's beat Matt Riviera before. But if Alan Jefferson wins, I was doing the math on this the other day, and I was looking at that, and I was like, if Alan Jefferson beats him, he will probably be pound for pound the lightest heavyweight champion we've ever had. So, we've had heavyweight champions of all shapes and sizes. We've had, WWF legend Hacksaw Butch Reed's been our champion. Niles Plonk has been a heavyweight champion. I've been a champion, but I don't think have we ever had a heavyweight champion that's been under 160 pounds or 150 pounds, whatever Alan is. So, it'll be cool, man, and I guarantee you he'll have a bunch of heels beating down that door trying to get a shot at that heavyweight championship.
For sure, and if I have my facts right, last time Riviera and Jefferson faced off in Springfield, Jefferson knocked off Riviera in one of the greatest.
You got it.
In professional wrestling.
Yeah,
It's probably one of the coolest upsets I've ever seen personally.
yeah. Jefferson probably only had, under probably 20 matches under his belt, and to beat a guy that's been in the business almost 20 years like Matt Riviera, it's a big win for a young kid's career like that.
Oh, definitely. And
someone just fresh coming out of the Mid-States Academy, man, that's a big right there to me. So
oh yeah,
knowing
definitely.
that my guys can go in there and go toe to toe with a guy that's been in the business for 20 years, that makes you feel good.
Yeah, because it's definitely at first whenever I first seen them two go toe to toe before the match even started, I was thinking, well, Riviera does have the size advantage, but if you look at history, size doesn't matter because look at Rey Mysterio.
There you go, my man.
Rey Mysterio has done some great things in his career, knocked off some of the biggest. So size really doesn't matter.
He was supposed to be in Vegas this week with me, and they were giving him a Lifetime Achievement Award. So I don't get to see Rey Mysterio this week. So that's a kick in the butt.
Yeah. But what can you do? Well, all right, guys.
We're doing it.
I really appreciate you, Jason, for joining me tonight and just sitting and talking some professional wrestling with me. It's great to do this podcast and be booking some more here in the near future. I'll link every link and stuff like that Jason has mentioned, and y'all just go check those out, show them some love, and whenever he releases more dates, I will be sure to pass them along to y'all. As he's showing y'all some merch right now, that's just some of the stuff that you can get by going on to mswtickets.com. Link will
Make wrestling great again, 2020.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I'm signing off of here. This is Mason, sitting here with Space Cowboy Jason Jones. Good night.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.